What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to try a little bit something different. I wanted to talk about the Scott Pilgrim anime that recently just came out. I want to start reviewing movies and shows that I've seen and kind of give my opinion on them, similar to how Moist Critical does his Moist Meter. And today I wanted to kick it off by talking about the newish Scott Pilgrim anime. I know it's been out for a while, but yesterday I completely binge watched the whole series, so I feel like it's still fresh in my mind enough to really give my true opinion on it. So the live action Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie is one of my all-time favorite movies that I've seen countless times. So needless to say, I had pretty high expectations going into this animated series. So it kind of started off, I'm going to try and exclude as many spoilers here as I can, but it started off kind of recapping the original story in the live action movie, and at first I was getting kind of worried. I thought it was just going to be an entire animation or animated rendition of the movie, which would kind of be a bummer for me. Yeah, that would have been kind of disappointing if it was just another version of the story that we've already got. So it stays true to the story from the live action movie until they get to the rocket for one of their first shows seen in the movie. Let me tell you guys, it goes off the deep end with a completely different story after that fight with Matthew Patel. Yeah, after that point, the show just has a completely different trajectory and just goes in a completely different direction, which I was honestly really excited to see. It really didn't disappoint with what they delivered on. But this story that they delivered on was coherent all the way through, and that's actually saying something given all of the different plot twists and just this new perspective that this awesome anime brings us. If you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim, just seeing this different perspective that we're given in this anime is just really awesome and cool to see. It really adds to the lore of Scott Pilgrim. First off, let's talk about the animation style. The animation was really cool. It kind of brought us that minimalist, simple artwork with the animation, which I really appreciate. They really told the story well with how minimalist the illustrations were. It was fun and engaging and pleasing to the eye. It really made me feel like I could go out and create a dope anime without really having a artistic bone in my body. But it was still really good. The animation was so clean. I loved it. I never felt rushed or neglectful of certain details. Even though there were a few details, it was not realistic by any stretch of the imagination, but it was just cool. It was refreshing to see. It's different than most animes that you're used to. But the combat and the fight sequences and scenes were freaking amazing. It had that classic anime fight feel to it that I absolutely love, and none of the movement ever gets lost in translation. When things are just happening super fast and some of it kind of gets lost and it just looks blurry, no, none of that ever happens throughout the story. You can tell exactly what's going on and when it's happening throughout the whole time, and it's really captivating and addicting almost to see. In my opinion, the that signature video game, arcade game, digital feel, it almost felt magnified due to the anime visuals, and it really complemented to the story, and it actually made you feel like you were watching the Scott Pilgrim video game, which I played, by the way, a long time ago. I think I bought it on the Xbox marketplace or whatever, but yeah, me and my brother actually played the arcade game on our Xbox, and it is very similar to watching the game in some scenes. It's a lot more similar to the games than watching the live action movie, in my opinion. So that's kind of cool to see. But all of the video game fonts and words that pop up on the screen and are animated all crazy, it never felt misused or unnecessary at all. It was very tastefully done. Visually, this show is breathtaking, especially for how as I was saying, how minimalist the artwork seems. The characters are just some lines, and the hands don't have very much detail to them at all, but that's just the style, and it works so well in this case. I've never seen a story so effectively told while being represented in such a simple, minimalistic way. It really proves that you don't have to be Vincent van Gogh to make a really breathtaking piece of artwork or media. And let's talk about the music for a little bit. The music was like a really nice addition to the show. The music is what kind of makes Scott Pilgrim feel like Scott Pilgrim in a way. There were some new tracks as well as some recognizable bangers thrown in there that just complemented the visuals so well. I just love like the almost like indie, distorted, energetic, and colorful sound that the live action movie and the anime both deliver on so well. Like, it's so good. It kind of keeps with that comic book like video game style where like the noises made throughout the show are like they display on the screen in different fonts and stuff, and any sound effects that happen are kind of illustrated on the screen as well, kind of like going with like the Spider-Verse movies, kind of that style. I feel like Scott Pilgrim's kind of almost the originator of that comic book like wave. Sorry, there's a freaking train going on in the background. I'm sure like that's lovely audio for you guys to hear, but yeah, those like words are still like transcripted on the screen, and it's really nice. It's a really nice effect to add to the movie, or to the show. Well, to the movie and show, to be honest. It both takes place in both of those, but it's just really signature to the franchise. Or like, I forget who it is, but in the movie Scott Pilgrim, you get to see him like go into the bathroom, and you see like the pee meter like getting lower as he's like releasing his pee into the toilet. Just like things like that, just like it's signature to the franchise, you know? And that isn't neglected in the show either. The character development is also really good in this new anime. The viewer kind of gets a better sense of who the characters are. They get more of a backstory, more context with each character that we saw in the movie that we know and love. And it really helps that they were voiced by the same exact people that were in the movie. Just added that sense of like, we know these people, we've seen them before. It just adds to the dynamic and development of each character. And yeah, they're kind of depicted in a different way visually, like with the anime style, as well as like their personalities. Another reason I like Scott Pilgrim is the like video game, arcade game, comic book approach. It really opens up so many different opportunities for the show to really do whatever they wanted to do, even if it wasn't grounded in reality, because it's not trying to be realistic. Like, they could break some rules more than if it was like grounded in reality, and they had to stick to the confines of like what's physically possible and stuff, and they could just break the rules and really have a abstract and creative direction in some cases. Like in one fight with an evil X, I won't say who it is specifically, but this was actually my favorite fight in the show. Like, it was so dope. And I think Ramona has done this in the movie before, but she takes out her like giant hammer out of her tiny like round star purse. And yeah, obviously that's not possible, but it's not trying to be realistic. It's like her inventory, and she's taking it out of her inventory. Like, obviously these characters that we play in video games can't hold all of the shit like in their backpack in real life. So it's just like they could do things that other shows can't, that are trying to stay grounded in reality and like follow like the laws of physics and stuff. And yeah, just the fact that they could like depict things any way they wanted, it really added to the film in like a very artistic way. Like during this fight, she takes out her hammer or whatever, and small spoilers here, but they're in like a video store. The video store that I think, what is her name? Kim? Like their drummer works at. And while Ramona is fighting this X, a shelf of movies like falls on them. Trying to really refrain myself from spoiling who's fighting here, but and then they kind of enter like a few various different movies. Like they enter like the cinema universe of like different movies, and that was really cool. And it was like really visually stimulating because like the artwork kind of changed with the background and like with whatever movie that they were in. And I thought that was really creative and fun and cool. One of the movies was like a black and white film, and then the whole show goes black and white and the style kind of changes. And then they entered like this like Asian inspired kung fu movie, and then it changed again. and they're just free to do whatever they want in that regard. And then it like switched to this like action movie where they're on this they're just like going through movie to movie, and they were on this plane and stuff, and they were fighting throughout the entirety of going through all of these different cinema universes. And it was kind of like across the Spider-Verse and stuff, you know, when they like enter that like Lego universe, and there's like they're at the Daily Bugle and Peter's like talking to his boss. Like it was kind of like that, almost like they might have taken a feather out of the cap of that movie for that scene. Actually, I don't know, it was really similar to that, where they were just going through all these different universes, and that was probably one of my favorite parts in the whole show. Honestly, it was a really epic fight scene. One of the parts that I think they could have done differently, or they could have, I don't know, made better, like it was involving Todd Ingram, one of the evil exes. I feel like it kind of spent a little bit more time than they needed to, with that whole like Todd Ingram arc, and like young Neil, spoiler alert, young Neil, he like writes this like movie. Well, you think it's him who writes it, wink wink, but yeah, like while they're on the set, Ramona's like a stunt double for someone playing herself, and like I feel like it just kind of dragged on at that point. Like there's a relationship that you don't expect to happen that happens, which is okay. I just felt like the pacing could have been a little bit better during that time. Like throughout the whole show, that was like the least interested that I got while I was watching it, was during that part. So I feel like the pacing could have been a little bit better during that part. I'm like nitpicking here, like the whole show is like amazing actually, and it kind of felt like, I don't know, it was kind of random in a way, but actually it wasn't random. It kind of fit throughout the whole narrative of the story, which like you kind of find out later. Like there's a lot of plot twists and like unanswered questions at first, but everything gets answered by the end of the show. So it kind of leaves you wondering there for a while, but then everything makes sense later on. Yeah, I thought the comic relief was really nice. There was like a bunch of funny punchlines that some characters deliver, but it wasn't too much. Like it didn't feel like a comedy by any stretch. There were just like nice, funny lines every once in a while, which I appreciated. Like that one character, I love Julie, or is it Julie? Yeah, Julie Powers. I feel like she's like a relatable character because she's like the girl who like doesn't necessarily like Scott, and she like swears in every sentence, and she just like complains about all of her customers, and like she's like, they're so fucking dumb. Like why do they have to act like that? And everything kind of gets on her nerves, and I kind of can relate with that. She just has that like crude sense of humor, which I think is so funny. Just like her view of the customers and her outlook on life like is so funny. She must be like kind of miserable as a person, because she seems like she dislikes a lot of things, but as a viewer, as one of the audience, it's like pretty funny to watch. Like because sometimes I feel like that, I'm just like not having a good day, and I'm just like, can you just not? But yeah, let me tell you guys, like there's no way to expect or predict at all like the plot twists that you get in this show, and it keeps happening. As soon as you get like a basic understanding of like what's going on, it just like completely flips on its head, and then like something out of the blue just like unexpectedly happens, and you're just like, holy shit, I did not see that coming. There's a lot of unanswered questions kind of, and it leaves you wondering, but for sure by the end, like it all comes together very beautifully, and you're just like, holy shit, mind blown. And yeah, it's actually very impressive like how much thought had to have gone into this plot of the show. There's so much foreshadowing and like depth that they had to come up with that like I don't even think my brain could think of. Like that's not saying very much, but yeah, a lot of thought had to go into the story of the show. It's almost like Marvel, like in a way I can relate it to, where they're just like thinking steps ahead, like, okay, this is gonna happen in order for this to happen, and that's gonna trigger something else to happen. Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. But yeah, it's a very digestible show. As I said, I binge watched the crap out of it last night, and it was just addicting. Like I couldn't stop watching it. It's one of those shows where once you start it, like you better have like a few hours to kill because you're not going to want to stop watching it. Each episode's less than a half an hour long. They seem to fly by, which is good, except for that one part with like the Todd Ingram X. I feel like that kind of dragged on, in my opinion. But yeah, if you like Scott Pilgrim, if you like the characters of that universe, I highly recommend this show. Like, it stays true to that feel of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, just like times 10. Like, the music is great, the characters are great, the story is great. If I had to rank it out of 10, I would give it a solid like 9 out of 10. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And don't worry, like, it seems like it's gonna be the same like narrative that took place in the movie, but just stick with it past the, but like by the end of the first episode, you're gonna be like, oh shit, like this is the show. Like, they're going with a completely different story, and it just adds to the lore of the Scott Pilgrim universe very well, and I really enjoyed it. I would say even like if you have kids or something, they would probably like it. I think there's a few curse words that kind of get through that aren't filtered out, and there is kind of some blood actually in some fight scenes, which I kind of liked, honestly. Like, it kind of feels like a kid's show, like until like someone's getting their ass kicked in like a fight scene and you're just like, oh shit, this is like an actual like legit like anime with like actual like fights between people, and like people get their ass kicked, and like it's really badass, some scenes, like, and it's very well done. Like, as I said, nothing gets lost in translation. Like, each movement is clear and concise, and you know exactly what's going on the whole time. But it's just like very well done and clean. I don't know, I wish I had a better way to put it, but it's awesome. Just the colors, the visuals, the energy, it's all unique, it's all authentic, it's all original. Like, there's really no other show that I could think of that's like it. And yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm gonna be doing this more often, just like kind of giving my takes on certain shows and movies, whatever it's worth to you guys, which is probably not very much, but yeah, this was a lot of fun for me. And if you're interested, go watch the show, and let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments. And I'll see you guys in another one. Peace out.